Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever wondered why he still watches your stories, still finds excuses to text you, still shows up in the shadows of your life, long after it's over? It's not an accident. When a man can't let go, it's because you left a mark he can't erase. You became the standard he measures every connection against, and no matter who he meets, something about you still lingers. So before you start doubting your worth, remember this. If he's doing this, he's not over you yet. You know that feeling when someone walks out of your life, but somehow they never really leave your mind? You tell yourself it's over, you've both moved on, but then something happens. A text at midnight, a just checking in, a subtle like on an old post. And suddenly, that door you were so sure had closed feels just a little bit open again. If he's doing this, he's not over you yet. But before we even talk about him, I want you to take a deep breath and remember something. Your worth isn't measured by who still wants you. It's measured by who shows up for you, who builds with you, and who chooses you every single day. Still, I understand why you want to know, because sometimes it's not about wanting him back. It's about wanting to understand what the connection still means. When a man can't fully let go, his actions reveal it in small, unguarded ways. He might not come out and say, "I miss you," but he'll find ways to keep himself tethered to you. Maybe he's still watching your stories even though you haven't spoken in weeks. Maybe he's asking mutual friends how you're doing, or he drops hints about the good times, reminding you of your shared moments as if to say, "Remember what we had?" He's trying to keep the memory alive because he hasn't yet accepted that it's over. A man who's moved on doesn't need to circle back. He doesn't need to know what you're doing, who you're seeing, or if you're okay without him. When he's over you, his attention naturally shifts to his new life. But when he's not, his curiosity becomes a quiet obsession. He might use excuses to contact you, pretending it's something casual like asking for a recommendation or sharing a random meme that reminded him of you. But what he's really doing is looking for a reason to connect again, because reaching out gives him a sense of control, a way to feel close without admitting he still cares. Sometimes he'll show it in his silence. He'll disappear for a while, hoping you'll reach out first. He's testing the waters, wondering if he still holds space in your heart. That silence is his way of saying, "If she misses me, she'll come back." And when you don't, it eats at him. He'll start to reappear, even if just subtly, a comment, a message, a coincidence that doesn't feel like one. These are not random acts. They are emotional breadcrumbs leading back to you. If he's doing this, it's because something about your connection still lingers in him. Maybe it's guilt. Maybe it's nostalgia. Maybe it's love. But it's there. He might date someone new, but the way he talks about you or avoids talking about you will tell you everything. When someone's over you, they can mention your name without a flicker of emotion. But when they're not, there's always a pause, a tension, a shift in tone. You can feel it. Because emotions don't vanish just because the relationship ended. They morph, they hide, but they rarely disappear. There's another thing he might do. He'll try to provoke a reaction. Maybe he posts pictures with someone new, knowing you'll see them. Maybe he acts like he's living his best life, but the energy feels performative, not peaceful. Because people who have moved on don't need to perform happiness. They live it. When he's still caught up on you, he'll use appearance as a weapon, trying to show you what you've lost, when deep down, he's trying to convince himself that he's fine. But you know what's really going on underneath all of that? He's wrestling with what it means to have had something real and lost it. Because even when two people break up, there's always a moment afterward when the truth hits. Connections like yours don't come around every day. Maybe you challenged him. Maybe you saw parts of him no one else did. Maybe you were the first person who loved him deeply and expected him to grow. That kind of love leaves a mark. It shakes a person in ways they don't fully understand until it's gone. So if he's doing this, reaching out, reminiscing, appearing in small ways, it's not necessarily about wanting you back. Sometimes it's about wanting reassurance. He wants to know he mattered, that you still think about him, that he wasn't just another chapter in your story. Because for someone who hasn't healed, that thought is unbearable. He's not over you because he's not at peace with how things ended. But here's where your power comes in. You don't have to chase his confusion. You don't have to decode every message or wonder what it means. If he's not over you, that's his journey to work through. Your focus is not on why he's still thinking about you, it's on why you're still giving him the space to. Because the truth is, you deserve a love that's sure, a love that doesn't hide behind games or mixed signals. You deserve someone who doesn't make you wonder. Still, there's something almost poetic about it, isn't there? The idea that even after all the pain, all the silence, someone out there still carries you in their heart. But that doesn't mean you owe them a second chance. Sometimes the greatest form of closure is realizing that their struggle to move on is not your invitation to go back. It's proof of your impact. Proof that what you gave was real and that you gave it honestly. If he's not over you, it means you awakened something in him. Maybe it was vulnerability. Maybe it was love. Maybe it was a mirror he wasn't ready to look into. Whatever it was, it left an imprint. And that's what powerful connections do. They change people. They expose them to what's possible, and then force them to decide who they want to be after losing it. He might come back, he might not, but don't let his uncertainty pull you off your path. The person who's meant for you won't just miss you, they'll show up for you. They won't need to play games to prove they care. They'll take accountability, they'll communicate, and they'll build something stronger. So when you see the signs that he's not over you, take them for what they are. Not as a sign to turn back, but as validation that you were someone unforgettable. He's still haunted by your presence because, deep down, he knows you were different. And while he's trying to figure out what that means for him, you get to rise above it. You get to move forward with the quiet confidence of someone who knows their value. Because the most magnetic energy in the world is peace. The peace of knowing you don't need to chase someone who's still chasing their own clarity. If he's doing this, it's not because you weren't enough. It's because for him, you were too much, too real, too raw, too genuine. He wasn't ready for the depth you offered, but that doesn't mean he won't remember it. People remember the ones who made them feel something real, and maybe one day he'll look back and realize what he lost. But by then, you'll already be living the life you once hoped to share with him, only now it will be yours alone, and it will be even better. Because that's what growth really is. Learning to take the lessons without carrying the weight. It's standing in the middle of everything you once thought you couldn't survive and realizing you already did. You see, when someone isn't over you, it's not a reflection of your failure, it's a reflection of the imprint you left on their soul. You showed them a version of love that demanded more than convenience, more than comfort. You demanded truth. And truth, once experienced, is hard to forget. When you touch someone at that level, it shakes their foundation. They can go out and date new people, fill their calendars, even convince themselves they're happy. But in quiet moments, when the noise fades and the world slows down, they'll think of you. Not because you were perfect, but because with you, they felt something real. And real doesn't vanish. It echoes. It lingers in their choices, in the songs they skip, in the places they avoid because they remind them of you. That's what happens when someone isn't over you. They're haunted not by what went wrong, but by what felt right. You might wonder if that's true, why don't they come back differently? Why don't they fight for it, apologize, rebuild what was lost? Because sometimes the weight of their own pride is heavier than their regret. They want to reach out, but they're terrified of what it might mean. To admit they were wrong, to risk being rejected, to confront the pain they caused. So instead, they linger in between, not gone, but not fully present either. And that's where so many people get stuck. Half in the past, half pretending to move forward. But you don't have to stay there. The beautiful thing about understanding that someone isn't over you is that it frees you to let go without resentment. You can look at their hesitation, their confusion, and see it for what it is. A sign that they're still learning what you already know. You've already walked through the fire. You've already faced the loneliness, the sleepless nights, the endless what-ifs. You've done the work of healing. And healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means remembering differently. It means being able to look at the memory without losing your balance. If he's still not over you, that's okay. You don't have to carry the responsibility for his growth. You don't have to fix what he broke or shrink yourself so he feels more comfortable in his confusion. The truth is, People can love you deeply and still not be ready to meet you where you deserve to be met. Sometimes love exists in someone's heart, but not yet in their maturity. That's why closure isn't something they give you. It's something you decide for yourself. There's a quiet strength in walking away knowing that someone still thinks about you. Not out of ego, but out of peace. Because it means you loved authentically. You gave something pure enough that it left an imprint. And if you can do that once, you can do it again with someone who's ready. You can love again without bitterness because you know that even if people leave, your love never loses its power. It's easy to romanticize the idea that someone still misses you. It feeds that small part of us that wants to know we mattered. But the real growth happens when you no longer need to be missed to feel significant. When you can wish them well and still move forward without hesitation. That's not indifference. That's emotional mastery. That's the kind of strength that draws the right people into your life. Because healed energy is magnetic. Think about how many people live their lives stuck in emotional loops, replaying old stories, reliving the same heartbreaks, hoping someone will finally see their worth. You break that cycle by realizing your worth isn't dependent on who remembers you. It's built on how you choose to remember yourself. You're not defined by who couldn't stay. You're defined by how you continue to rise. So yes, maybe he's not over you. Maybe he still feels the ache of your absence when he hears that song, or smells your perfume, or passes that street where you once laughed together. But don't mistake nostalgia for readiness. Missing someone doesn't mean you're meant to be with them. It means you're human, and humans grieve what they can't replace. The question is, do you want to keep being the memory someone can't let go of, or do you want to be the woman who no longer needs to look back? Because when you decide to move forward, everything changes. You stop waiting for messages that may never come. You stop replaying what you could have said differently. You stop checking for signs that he still cares. Instead, you start living in a way that honors your worth. You pour your energy into things that grow you, that excite you, that remind you how much life exists outside that one connection. And that's when something powerful happens. You become unforgettable, not because you're chasing validation, but because you've built peace. The kind of peace that glows, the kind that makes people wonder how you managed to move on so gracefully. And it's simple. You didn't wait for them to be over you. You decided to be over the version of yourself that kept waiting. Sometimes the universe has a funny way of showing us timing. You'll find that when you finally stop holding space for someone who's uncertain, new opportunities appear. People come into your life who reflect the same emotional availability you've cultivated in yourself. You attract what you are ready for. That's why letting go isn't a loss. It's a declaration. It's saying, I choose growth over nostalgia. I choose peace over confusion. I choose me. And when he feels that shift, when he realizes that your energy no longer revolves around his indecision, it will shake him. Because people feel when your power returns to you. Suddenly, the text that once got instant replies gets silence. The attention he used to take for granted disappears. That's when he'll truly understand what it means to not be over you. Not because you're unreachable, but because you've evolved into someone who no longer waits for half-hearted effort. If he's still holding on, it means part of him knows what he lost. But don't let that be your reason to stay stuck. Let it be your reminder that you were never the one who needed to change to be worthy of love. You just needed to stop settling for people who aren't ready for the depth you bring. You're not too much. You're just too real for those who are still learning how to love themselves enough to love you right. The truth is, not everyone who enters your life is meant to stay forever. Some are meant to awaken something in you, to teach you about boundaries, to mirror back your strength. He may not be over you, but you don't need him to be. Because your peace isn't dependent on his clarity. Your closure comes from recognizing that what was served its purpose. It taught you what love should feel like and what it shouldn't. One day, he'll look at someone new and search for pieces of you in them. The way you laughed, the way you cared, the way you challenged him to be more. But he won't find it, because what you offered wasn't replaceable. It was genuine. And maybe that's the real reason he can't move on, because deep down he knows he might never experience that kind of connection again. You, on the other hand, will continue to evolve. You'll find peace in your solitude. You'll build a life that feels full, without needing validation from anyone else. And when love finds you again, and it will, it'll meet you on a higher level, with presence, with effort, with consistency, because you've learned to expect more, not out of pride, but out of respect for yourself. So if he's doing this, reappearing, reminiscing, testing your boundaries, it's only proof of one thing: your energy still matters to him. But what matters more is how you choose to protect it now. You can love someone, miss someone, even wish them healing, and still move forward. That's not coldness, that's wisdom. It's knowing that love is not meant to keep you trapped in what was, but to prepare you for what's next. Let him wrestle with the ghosts of your memory if he must. Let him feel the emptiness of a connection he took for granted. Because while he's replaying the past, you'll be out there creating a future that doesn't depend on anyone else's readiness to love you. And that's what makes you powerful. Not because he can't get over you, but because you already learned how to get over the version of yourself that needed him too. And that power you've found, it's quiet, but it's undeniable. It's the kind of strength that doesn't need to shout to be heard. You walk differently when you realize you no longer have to prove your worth to anyone. You speak differently when you know your voice carries truth, not desperation. That's the transformation that happens when you stop revolving around someone else's uncertainty and start orbiting your own purpose. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. You've learned that your peace is priceless, and anyone who disturbs it is simply not your person. You start to notice how much lighter life feels when you stop chasing closure from those who can't even give it to themselves. You begin to understand that some people stay emotionally stuck because it's easier than facing what they lost. They revisit your memory like an old song they can't stop playing, not because it still fits, but because it reminds them of who they were when they felt alive. That's why they're not over you. It's not just you they miss, it's the version of themselves they became when they were with you. The part of them that dared to love, that felt seen, that felt understood. And when they lost that, they lost access to that version of themselves too. But here's the thing. You don't have to hold space for their evolution anymore. You already gave them the mirror. Whether they choose to look into it or not is up to them. Your job now is to keep walking, to keep evolving, to keep building the kind of life that reflects the lessons you've learned. You've grown beyond needing validation from someone who's still wrestling with their own shadows. You've turned your pain into wisdom, your heartbreak into self-awareness, and your longing into purpose. It's what real healing looks like. It's not pretending you never cared. It's acknowledging that you did, and still choosing to move forward. Healing doesn't mean you stop missing someone. It means the missing doesn't control you anymore. You stop waiting for them to recognize your worth because you've already done that for yourself. You stop asking, why can't they see what we had, and start saying, thank you for showing me what I truly need. And that shift, when it happens, it's powerful. You start to realize that being unforgettable isn't about holding space in someone else's mind. It's about living so authentically that you leave a mark wherever you go. When people think of you, they don't just remember the way you looked or the way you laughed. They remember how they felt around you. They remember your presence, your energy, your ability to bring warmth into a room. That's what they can't move on from. Because energy like yours doesn't just disappear. It transforms everything it touches. So if they're still not over you, let that be a quiet acknowledgement of your impact, not an invitation to revisit what's already been completed. It's easy to mistake someone's longing for destiny, but sometimes it's just unfinished healing. Sometimes what looks like love trying to return is actually guilt, nostalgia, or the discomfort of realizing they let go of something real. You can have compassion for that without reopening the door. You can understand their pain without making it your responsibility to soothe it. Because love isn't supposed to drain you. It's supposed to expand you. And when it doesn't, that's your sign. The most magnetic thing about you isn't your looks, your charm, or your history. It's your peace. The peace that comes from knowing you can walk away from anything that doesn't honor your growth. The peace that comes from realizing your worth isn't negotiable. When you reach that level, everything in your life begins to shift. The people who once unsettled you no longer have power over you. The situations that once confused you become crystal clear. And yes, sometimes the universe will test that clarity. You'll get that unexpected message. You'll feel that old spark flicker for a second. But now you respond differently. You don't react out of emotion. You respond from awareness. You've learned that not every feeling needs to be followed. Not every door that opens deserves to be walked through again. You've learned the difference between connection and attachment. Connection uplifts you, attachment drains you. And when you finally release attachment, you make room for something far more profound: alignment. The truth is, when someone isn't over you, it can stir something inside you. A part of you might still want to be wanted. That's human. But you've come too far to confuse attention with effort, or regret with readiness. You've learned that love that's real doesn't need to play games to prove itself. It doesn't need to test boundaries to feel secure. It just shows up consistently, wholeheartedly, and without fear. And that's the standard you now live by. You start realizing how much energy you once spent trying to interpret someone's mixed signals. You remember how many nights you stayed up wondering what you did wrong, when all along you were asking the wrong question. It was never about what you lacked. It was about what they weren't ready for. You were speaking the language of depth to someone still learning the alphabet of emotional honesty. That's why they couldn't meet you where you were. Not because you were too much, but because they weren't enough yet. And you know what's beautiful about this stage of your journey? You're no longer bitter about it. You don't need revenge. You don't need to prove that you're thriving without them. You simply are. Success, your peace, your glow, they're not for show. They're a natural result of alignment. You've stopped chasing and started attracting. Because when your energy becomes calm and grounded, everything meant for you starts to find its way effortlessly. People can feel when you've healed. They can sense it in your presence. There's a steadiness in your eyes, a softness in your heart, and a confidence in your boundaries. You no longer fear losing people because you trust yourself not to lose your center. That's what makes you unforgettable, not the relationship you had, but the person you've become because of it. There will always be a part of him that wonders if he'll ever meet someone who brings out that same version of himself again. And maybe he won't, because what you offered wasn't just affection, it was elevation. You didn't just love, you challenged. You didn't just care, you inspired growth. And when someone isn't ready for that kind of love, it can be overwhelming. But you can't dim your light for those still learning how to see. You can't shrink your soul just to fit into someone else's comfort zone. You're meant to keep expanding, to keep evolving, to keep walking into rooms that feel like new beginnings, not recycled endings. Every step you take forward is a declaration that you're done trying to resuscitate what's already gone. You're done mistaking potential for partnership. You're done hoping that someone's confusion will one day turn into clarity. You've reclaimed your emotional space and you're filling it with things that truly feed your spirit. There's a certain kind of power that comes from being at peace with your past. It's the power of not flinching when their name comes up. The power of smiling at old memories without needing to relive them. The power of wishing them well, not because you want them back, but because you finally understand that your story with them served its purpose. It made you softer, but also stronger. It taught you that love isn't just about chemistry, it's about compatibility, timing, and emotional readiness. And while they may still be stuck in that space of what if, you're already living in the what's next. You've learned that closure isn't a conversation, it's a decision. It's you choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and growth over comfort. You've realized that being missed isn't a compliment if it comes from someone who couldn't value you when they had you. You no longer find validation in being remembered. You find it in being free. Because freedom looks good on you. It's in the way you laugh now, the way you take up space without apology, the way you trust yourself to walk away from anything that doesn't align with your peace. And that's why you'll always stand out, not just to them, but to anyone who crosses your path. You're no longer chasing love, you're embodying it. You've become the person you once hoped someone else would be for you. And that's the most powerful transformation of all.